Welcome to this video. Thank you so much for tuning in and sharing in this now moment with myself and with one another. If you haven't seen these videos before, welcome back. If you have, my intention is unity and oneness, the highest levels of love, light, sovereignty, creative self-expression. So I wanted to actually pop on and talk a little bit about synchronicity, but then I was just guided to go into flow. So maybe I'll talk a little bit about synchronicity in the next video. Let's see what comes through and we'll go from there. And within this unified field, we are constantly invoking. We are constantly evolving. We are constantly looking forward at our future. We are invoking our future. Our resonance now invokes that which it is we are becoming. For if we begin to recognize that our words that have been spoken have done the evoking to create our world. Yet the spoken written word is not the only linguistical trademark. Trade winds of time, change, movement, patterns. Vocalization is a strength, yet it is also binding. The weakest link, if you will. In the chain of command. For if we are using self-defeating, self-limiting words, and this is what we are passing off as our right hand, that's a play on words. I'm seeing writing, I'm seeing right hand, like I promise. I'm seeing that's my right hand, like that's my spokesperson, so recognizing all of this. We focus on this particular message. For currently, within your currency, within your current system, there is a value that is being given. Okay, I'm seeing gone to, gone baby gone. I'm seeing like a value being given and misdirected, being given away. Like we're giving our power away. We don't even realize it. For there are many who are not centered in their own diversity. They are not centered in their own university. They are not recognizing that they are walking the path of many paths, seeking knowledge, seeking answers, seeking expression, when in reality they are the teachers. Yet what are we teaching others? For the path in this universality, this universal reality, this universe and all realities is based on our own creative purpose, our purpose-driven mission, our purposes in this inner dimension, in this planetary exchange system, in this expression that we are walking on this planet. Are we seeing it and using it as a diversion? Are we recognizing that many of the speech patterns that we procreate, that we actively activate, that we actively speak, seek, express, are creating diversional tactics that are pulling us off of the bandwidths that are necessary for our purposeful evolution. So this is a lot of plays on words. Like I'm seeing a purpose-driven life. I'm seeing having an intention was the word I was hearing, but I was in flow. So when you intend something, we start to recognize, are our words adding up to what it is that we're intending behind them? Or are we just, and are we I'm hearing dictating to someone else what their words and language should be. Are we empowering one another, or are we distracting one another with, I'm seeing like this fluff of feathers, like a pillow fight, like, no, you're mean. No, you're mean. I can't stand you. I can't, and it's like all this pluff. I'm hearing fluffing our feathers, plumage. So, I'm seeing that this has caused us to keep from gaining flight. I keep seeing these white feathers everywhere. And as we evolve, this is creating a certain sense of dictatorship. Even though we think we're being diverse, we're actually being highly convoluted. I'm hearing our conversations are depleting our energy because we're conversing about things that are not necessarily leading to unity, oneness, even though we think that they are. So I'm hearing that a lot of the conversations we're having, we think we're empowering one another. We think we're adding to freedom. We think that I'm hearing fighting for liberation and unity, but we're missing the bigger picture. I'm hearing the conversational tactics are actually being used against us. But this is a linear representation. This isn't about everybody. This is about conformity, even though we don't look like we're conforming. So there's a lot of in the layers here. For we must go deeper within. Step out of the lion's den, the lair that is layering us. I'm seeing like people are walking into this space and they're surrounded by lions and they're like, uh-oh, what do I do now? But they're not realizing. I don't know, this is like multi-dimensional, so I'll kind of play with that later. But what I'm seeing is recognize that we are, the more that we seek to go within to find our truth, the more we hear the jibber jabber that is someone else's truth. Yet even that is not their own truth necessarily. Even their own words that they believe in are based on a belief or system that is no longer supporting the unity consciousness movement, so to speak. And I'm hearing like not a movement, it's not a cause, it's literally the movement of all of us into unity and consciousness, unified. And I'm just keep seeing the heart. For it is not full charge, full steam ahead. It is seeing what charges us from within, getting out of our head so that we may reflect on what has been misspoken and the gifts that are within that allow us to discern what it is that we are being offered. I'm seeing and what it is that we are sacrificing in order to accept what is being told to us from a perpendicular point of view. I'll have to dig into that a little bit more. I'm going to pause that just for a moment. Okay, we're talking about intersecting at the right angle, but that's all a play on words as well. So what I'm seeing, and I'm just going to try to stay in flow, but It's difficult sometimes when I share these videos with everybody because it really is a play on words and there is a layering of the words that I'm speaking about, not like the lion's lair, but a layering, and recognizing what I'm seeing is people think that they're at the right angle and that's the perpendicular point of view, but it isn't necessarily the right angle. It isn't even necessarily at the same angle that people, once they get into their hearts, we feel when somebody else is speaking the truth, or we feel, I'm hearing I don't have the right. It's not about rights or wrongs, being wronged. Recognize that it's bigger than all of that. And once we recognize where our point of view is coming from, how it's being influenced, what is being interjected, and I'm also hearing injected into our everything, we then can start to unravel the soup, what I'm hearing, that we are all bubbling in right now. For we are all connected, yet we are all interdimensionally shifting, vibrating. I'm hearing toroidals spinning at different geometries, harmonies, vibrations, patterns. And as we begin to recognize that somebody else's recipe does not align with ours, we start to stop playing in their power. We stop empowering it, we stop adding to their recipe. This also goes back to the previous video that I did where I talked about hanging up the phone. I'm seeing this all tying together. Like, it's about recognizing, it's about listening, it's about feeling into things and using our discernment, and stop trying to jump in somebody else's soup. Like, that's their recipe. That does not mean it's our recipe. And even that's only one layer, because there may be something we want to add to our soup that we didn't even think about before. And we go, ooh, that feels like it might be delicious. So we add that in, or we feel like, ooh, that isn't what I want to put in. And you guys, this is obviously talking about our reality. When I say soup, I literally see our air that we breathe, the plasma and ether, etheric field that we exist within as soup. I've referred to it before as the ocean. It's literally a ripple effect. So what's happened is I'm hearing some people have created a bigger ripple than others, and we're drawn and attracted to that ripple because their patterns are noisier, louder, and pull on our heartstrings. But that can be very misleading because it's triggering responses within our, I'm hearing, highly riddled cortisol fields. So when we get into fear, anxiety, doubt, blame, shame, guilt, any of those things, our cortisol goes up in our body. It throws our hormones out of balance. It throws our ability to concentrate and focus out of balance. Our ability to sleep, our ability to problem solve, because it's all heightened. And I'm hearing riddle me this, riddle me that. And it's a joke. It's like the Joker is playing in that field because that's what the Joker does. And I'm hearing we don't blame the Joker card for being the Joker card. Like, that's just the card that it is in the deck. But we can recognize that isn't how we want to play and realize when the joke's on us. But we can't do that if we're highly triggered constantly and we're not balancing that out. And let me rephrase that. We cannot do that if we're in a heightened state of fear constantly, because our cortisol, our hormones, our entire sensory system is blocked. And this is then a lot of people don't realize why they have hypothalamus, thalamus, thyroid, right? That's obviously the brain, but I'm hearing hippocampus. Like the entire system is just not balanced and aligned. So how can we know if someone is speaking the truth? And how can we judge, and I say this as a non-linear word, like discern, if we are wanting to buy into that, give value to, support a truth that someone else is telling us what it is, if we aren't balanced ourselves, we can't know. And this is such a huge message that just keeps coming on and over again, is we are perfectly capable of using our heart as our tool, not the false heartstrings where somebody says, oh, you know, do you guys watch, there's commercials all the time about the animals that are being abused. That's an example of us as a human, as having that, I'm hearing the nervous system, you know, sympathy and empathy, right, which are two different things, but I'm using that as an example. What's being done is certain things are playing on our heartstrings. They're playing on our desire for goodness and compassion and equality and the treatment of all beings with reverence and care. And what's happening is that creates, if we're triggered by that constantly, it actually causes us, I'm hearing, to malfunction, to not really understand what's going on in the bigger picture, and it pulls us into this loud soup where we're so heated all of the time that it's hard to find neutrality, it's hard to find balance, and it's also hard to find, I'm hearing, common ground. And this is a reference to essentially literally being grounded and being anchored in our own body. We go into fight or flight. This is also a play on words. We want to fight or we want to run away and not deal with it at all. But fight or flight is that survival, right? And so all of this can be played with in a multidimensional way or a linear way, really. We invite you to recognize that you have the home advantage. You have the home court. You are at home. And as you recognize that the home court is earth, that the home court is your body, that the home court is your ability to embody. I'm going to pause for just a moment. So essentially, we have to feel home here and on earth. And the only way we can really start to figure out what's really going on is by getting into the heart, which we all have heard. Because what happens when you're in a place of coherence and neutrality, and in that place of recognizing that we're being triggered. I talked about this in my last video. It's not about not being triggered, although you can get to that point where it doesn't trigger. For me, I don't get triggered as much anymore. It doesn't mean I don't ever get triggered, but I am aware of it. I recognize it. I choose in that moment how I am going to respond to this particular trigger that I obviously either need to integrate, need to see, haven't processed, wasn't aware of before, and then I move accordingly. I don't react as much. I'm still a human and I have those moments, but I'm less likely to react in fear, in anger, in fill in those particular energetic blanks there. And when I recognize that, I'm able to process it almost immediately in that moment. Or I'll have something where it comes up and I go, oh, I was triggered because this, and it happens much faster, rather than being in a constant state, because I'm seeing a lot of people in session as well, just watch TV, not that I'm encouraging you to watch TV, but social media, all of it. People are in such a heightened state of anger, despair, fear. Not everybody. There's a lot of us that are really just like, we're not going to feed that timeline. We're not going to feed that reality, right? But it's this constant heightened cortisol going up, going up, going up. And it almost becomes an addiction for some people. And that's another video. What also happens is it clouds our judgment. It clouds our ability to discern. And I mean judge as in right or wrong, but I also don't mean it as right or wrong. Like, okay, if I walk out in front of that car, it's going to hit me. That's called judging if that particular is right or wrong. Now, granted, neither one of those would be right or wrong. You're either going to get hit by the car or you're not, right? We could say that stepping out in front of that vehicle would be a wrong choice, but either way, it's a choice. And in that moment, we're discerning, we're using our judgment capabilities to decide and make a choice if that decision is right for us or if that decision is wrong for us. But if we're in a state of panic all the time, not even recognizing that, people are going to walk out in front of a car because they're not even paying attention, or they're going to do something and then later on go, what was I thinking? I wasn't even in my right mind. A lot of people are not in their right mind right now because they are being, I'm hearing the words manipulated, but this is also a play on words. Manipulated. So, and if we break down the meaning of the word manipulated, obviously we could play with that as well, but it's man, it's human form. We're being pulled, we're being separated, pulled into all these different directions. So again, this is tying me back into pay attention to the words that we are feeding others, that we are agreeing with, that we are expressing. And it's beyond that. Because there's this idea that our word is our bond, and that may be true, but we want to know, why are we saying those words? How does it feel? And if we feel fearful about everything, then we're incapacitated. We're only working at a small percentage of what we really have the potential of working at. And ultimately, that's part of the reason from a, let's call it a 3D, 4D perspective, that's going on. So that we're not able to fully connect into our bodies. If we're out here all the time and we're heightened cortisol all the time, then how are we able to evolve, ascend, expand, create from a place of beauty and wonder and bliss if we're constantly feeding all of that other stuff? So again, that's what the message is that's coming through. Pay attention. It starts home base. Our earth is home. Our bodies are our home. It starts with what we're feeding in our house. I'm hearing affairs in order. And if you think of a fair, is fairness. It's neutrality. It isn't this, it isn't this. It's balance, right? And start with that first before we're completely sucked into all of these other things going on. And granted, if it's in your house, not by the television telling us what to see, television, or the stuff we're hearing on the radio, what's in front of us? I shared Jason Estez's work. I really like the way he says, what's right in front of you? Because if it's showing up, and I don't mean by television, if I have a friend that's experiencing it, or if I'm having it happen at work, that's different. That is part of my reality that I'm actively involved in. Or if we feel, so I'm kind of going off on a tangent right now because I'm seeing this sprinkle out into so many different layers about what's going on publicly right now in the arena. And I just saw Gladiator. I didn't really see the movie Gladiator. It just popped into my head. But what is it? The Colosseum in ancient Rome, right? The Colosseum. It was like everybody sat in the arena and watched people battle each other. And that's what's going on right now. It's like, that's pulling this heightened state of, get home. Get your own stuff together is what I keep hearing. And then everything else, we're able to make decisions based on balance. I'm going to end on that note. In love and light. Namaste.